Wow. Well, hello, Minnesota. To Congressman Stauber, to State Party Chair Jennifer Carnahan, to my friend Mike Lindell, to all my fellow hardy Minnesotans from near and far, it is great to be back in the North Star State. Thank you so much for coming out on this blustery day and looking out at this crowd. It's pretty obvious to me. The Iron Range is Trump country. And I'm here for one reason and one reason only. And that is that Minnesota and America need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. And we are just 8 days away from another great victory all across America. So thank you all for being out today. It really is great. I don't even know if there's chairs there, but if you have one, if it's warmer, you can find it. Before I go any further, I know I speak on behalf of everybody here. When I say our hearts and our prayers today are with former Congressman Jason Lewis. He was supposed to be with us today, but you may have heard. Jason was rushed to the hospital this morning, but I was just informed that he just came out of a successful surgery, and his doctors are optimistic that he'll be discharged in the next couple of days. So let's keep Jason Lewis in our prayers for a quick recovery. We know he's going to fight through this, and we know he's going to continue fighting for Minnesota as the next great senator from this state. Let's hear it for Jason Lewis, everybody. What a great guy. You know, 4 years ago, a movement was born. A movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. Here in the Iron Range, you believe we could be strong again. You believe we could be prosperous again. Here in the Iron Range, you said yes to President Donald Trump in 2016, and I know that Minnesota is going to say yes to 4 more years of President Donald Trump in 2020. And it's because of what we've all accomplished together. The confidence that you placed in this president 4 years ago. I mean, just think about it. 4 years ago, we inherited a military that was hollowed out by devastating budget cuts. An economy that was struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression. Terrorism was on the rise around the world. And we witnessed a steady assault on our most cherished values. But in 3 short years, we rebuilt our military. We revived our economy. We secured our border, supported law enforcement, stood for life and liberty and the Constitution of the United States. And it all starts with our national defense. You know, after years of reckless budget cuts under the last administration, budget cuts when Joe Biden was vice president that literally left a large portion of our Air Force aircraft were grounded when we took office, and those airplanes were being used as spare parts to keep the rest of our Air Force in the air. Well, under President Donald Trump, those days are over. President Trump has signed the largest investment in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan. And I have to tell you, as your vice president, but as the proud father of a United States Marine and the father-in-law of a United States Navy pilot, I can attest that we are finally giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard the resources and the support they need to defend this nation. President Donald Trump will always put our American military first. And it's not just those who serve in our military, but I know there's many veterans in the crowd today. If you wore the uniform of the United States, would you mind just putting your hand in the air and letting us say thank you one more time? Let's hear it for our veterans, everybody. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. I mean, you all remember when Joe Biden was vice president, we went through years of scandals at the VA. I mean, literally, some of America's greatest veterans were perishing in waiting lines, perishing on waiting lists to go into VA hospitals. President Donald Trump, he signed the most sweeping reforms of the VA in 50 years. We fired 3,000 VA employees that weren't giving our veterans the care that you earned in the uniform of the United States, and Veterans Choice is now available for every veteran in America. So it's been about standing with those who serve and standing with you who did serve. But when it comes to this economy, after 8 years when Joe Biden and the last president tried to tax and spend and bail us back to a growing economy, President Donald Trump created the greatest economy in American history. I mean, it's amazing to think, and you got to tell your neighbors and friends this in Minnesota. It is amazing to think in the midst of a global pandemic, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by $4 trillion. He said it on television again last night. President Trump, we cut taxes across the board for working families and businesses large and small. We rolled back more federal red tape than any administration in American history. We fought for free and fair trade, unleashed American energy, and in just 3 short years, businesses large and small created more than 7 million good-paying jobs, including 70,000 jobs right here in the state of Minnesota. Isn't that incredible? Boy, I love those glove claps. Give yourselves a round of glove claps, will you? You are the toughest people I've seen in a while, I'm telling you. God bless you. But back on the economy, what meant so much to the president and me was that wages were rising at their fastest pace in 10 years. But they were rising most rapidly for hardworking blue-collar Americans. The forgotten men and women of America were forgotten no more. I mean, here in the Iron Range, you know that the iron that's been mined here in northern Minnesota for more than 100 years is used to make everything that makes America strong. Our ships, our cars, everything, appliances, washing machines, our bridges and our skyscrapers soar because of the iron that comes out of the Iron Range. But you all remember, Joe Biden and the last president actually tried their best to literally shut down mining in the Iron Range. Last year, Joe Biden even told a group of coal miners in New Hampshire that they ought to, quote, learn to code. The truth is, when Joe Biden was vice president, they withdrew the mineral rights for the nation's largest untapped copper and nickel reserves right here in northern Minnesota. But from the beginning, President Donald Trump has been fighting to open up the Iron Range. This president went straight to work, not just to protect mining, to protect the way of life that has defined this great part of the country for so many years. The president took executive action, declared the production of rare earth minerals as essential to the defense of the nation, which it is. And just a few weeks ago, I don't have to tell all you, the president came up to Duluth, signed an executive order that expands good-paying jobs in the industry, cuts burdensome regulations, and eliminates permitting delays. Northern Minnesota and the Iron Range are going to be more prosperous than ever before with 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. Miners and your families across the Iron Range, I expect are going to remember what Joe Biden tried to do last time he was spending time in the White House. But I need all of you to tell your neighbors and friends, for your way of life, for the boundless prosperity of the Iron Range, and for strength for all of American industry, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. And when it comes to trade, so important here in Minnesota. You all deserve to know that President Donald Trump's been fighting for American jobs and American workers on trade from day one. When we took office, though, half of our international trade deficit was with communist China. Joe Biden, he's been a cheerleader for communist China all along the way. He actually said that the rise of China was a positive development. And he scoffed last year at even the idea that China was a competitor of the United States. But under President Donald Trump, those days are over. We put China on notice that the era of economic surrender is over. We put tariffs on China's steel to fight for American jobs and workers, and we're going to stand strong on China until they open up their market and respect what we make and we export in this country once and for all. And closer to home, just north of the border here in Canada and south of the border in Mexico, you all remember NAFTA. I mean, out here in the heartland, we literally saw, in the 25 years since NAFTA was signed, we saw factories literally shuttered, didn't we? An entire community in the district I represented in Congress for 12 years, Anderson, Indiana, literally overnight saw General Motors shutter a factory that had employed thousands of people for generations. Now, Democrats for the longest time liked to talk about how bad NAFTA was, but they never lifted a finger to do anything about it. Remember? But when the man who wrote The Art of the Deal got to the White House, Minnesota and America got a way better deal. NAFTA is gone, and the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement is here to stay. And you all deserve to know Joe Biden's running mate, Kamala Harris. She was one of only 10 senators to actually vote against the USMCA. She said it didn't go far enough on climate change. I mean, Kamala Harris put her radical environmental agenda ahead of American jobs and American workers. But I'll make you a promise. With 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House, we are always going to put American jobs and American workers first when it comes to international trade. And on health care, you all remember the disaster of Obamacare, right? I mean, remember all the lies of Obamacare? If you like your doctor, you can keep him. That wasn't true. You said if you like your health insurance, you can keep it. Not true. They said that health insurance premiums were going to go down. You know, when we took office, health insurance premiums under Obamacare had doubled. And Joe Biden the other night in that presidential debate, and how well did President Trump do in that debate? Am I right? I mean, come on. No, but Joe Biden says in that presidential debate that not one single person lost their private insurance under Obamacare. I mean, come on, man. 6 million Americans lost their health insurance when Obamacare took effect. It's true. And now Joe Biden has a plan that would literally import the worst part of Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All into the heart of Obamacare. He calls it a public option. It sounds kind of fancy schmancy, right? What it is he's literally going to import government-run health insurance and drop it right in the middle of Obamacare to compete against private health insurance. I mean, the truth is, you drop a public option into the middle of Obamacare, you're going to threaten the health insurance of 180 million Americans. And you will set our nation on a path, an inevitable path of socialized medicine. Take it to the bank. Under President Trump, we've been fixing what's broken in healthcare in America. We repealed the individual mandate. We lowered the cost of health insurance with more options for small businesses. We cut the cost of prescription drugs. We passed right to try Medicare premium and Advantage plans by 34% decline. And with President Donald Trump in the White House, we will lower the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government, and America will never be a socialist country. And men and women of the Iron Range, we have a choice to make when it comes to this economy. I think it's a choice between a Trump recovery and a Biden depression. I mean, a recent study, totally nonpartisan study, just came out and said that Joe Biden's policies had cost 5 million American jobs and reduced the average household income of Americans by $6,500 a year. So after you leave here today, in everything that remains in the next 8 days, I need you to find a neighbor, a family member, a friend at worship, at work. Just ask him this question. Say, you know, I was out at the range airport. I ran into Mike. And he told me to ask you this one question. Really? I mean, just say, who do you really think is going to bring this economy all the way back? A career politician who spent 47 years in Washington raising taxes, growing government, waving the white flag of economic surrender on trade, or a proven job creator who will keep cutting taxes, rolling back regulation, and put American jobs and American workers first? That's why we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. That's great. Thank you. So, you know, it's been about security and prosperity, but it's also about the safety and security of our families and our communities. And I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who has stood every day with the men and women who serve in law enforcement at every level in this country. You know, all my heroes wear uniforms. It's really true. Like one of the strongest allies of law enforcement in the Congress of the United States. I don't have to tell all of you, he was a police officer in Duluth for 20 years. In 1995, he was actually shot while off duty by a criminal with multiple past offenses. A few years later, he was threatened point-blank range, but by the grace of God, he survived to continue to serve. And he answered the call not long ago to take off that uniform of law enforcement and put on that little badge that congressmen wear on Capitol Hill. And I'm telling you what, Minnesota and America will always be grateful for the life of service of Congressman Pete Stauber. Let's hear it for Pete Stauber, everybody. This man is a champion of law enforcement and law and order. Man. I can honestly say I was for Pete before it was cool. He's just doing an incredible job. Thank you so much, Pete. Thanks for being there. You know, what Pete and I know, the President also knows, and you know. The men and women who serve in law enforcement are some of the best people in this country, and they deserve the respect of every American every day. Now, standing here in Minnesota, let me be clear. There's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd, and justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the violence that ensued in the streets of Minneapolis. President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Burning businesses is not free speech. I mean, for months, all Joe Biden talked about, as you saw the mayhem in Minneapolis, all Joe Biden talked about was peaceful protesters, remember? It's literally you watch businesses in that community and cities around this country burn to the ground. You know, not long ago I was in Minneapolis and I met an incredible African-American woman named Flora Westbrook. Flora started a little salon in downtown Minneapolis 35 years ago. It really became a center of the community. And she told me about a couple of days after the killing of George Floyd, how she watched in horror on television as the violent protesters came closer and closer and closer to her little salon until they burned it to the ground. I mean, men and women, you deserve to know, Joe Biden would double down on the policies that have led to violence in our cities. I mean, when you start to pull back in support for those who protect and serve, you only embolden those who would do harm to our families and our communities. Now, Joe Biden justifies it all by saying that, in his words, America is systemically racist. Said it again last night on TV. And he and Kamala Harris say often that they believe that police officers have a, quote, implicit bias against minorities. When Joe Biden was asked if he'd support cutting for law enforcement, he said, yes, absolutely. But under President Donald Trump, and with Pete Stauber in the Congress, I'll make you a promise. We're not going to defund the police. Not now, not ever. We're going to back the blue, and we're going to back the blue for 4 more years. And I'll promise you, we're going to have law and order in every city, in every state in this nation, for every American of every race and creed and color. So help us God. So it's been about law and order and standing with those who protect and serve. But it's also been about strengthening the foundation of our liberties. And I'm proud to report to you today that in just a few hours, there'll even be more. This president's actually appointed more than 230 conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And they are all men and women who will uphold the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, like the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. You know, last month we rightly paused as a nation to honor the life and service of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But when the memorials were over, President Trump fulfilled his duty under the Constitution when he nominated a brilliant, principled, conservative woman to the Supreme Court of the United States, Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Isn't she great? And I don't just say that because she's from Indiana. She's just amazing. The job she did in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Did you love it when she held up that pad of paper? That was a great moment. It really was. And we're coming up on a successful moment in her story and in our history. The President and I said early on, though, that this time Judge Barrett needed to be given a respectful confirmation. But we had reason to be concerned. Y'all remember 2 years ago? Judge Barrett was nominated to the Court of Appeals. And the leading Democrat on the Judiciary Committee actually said that she was concerned because of Judge Barrett's sincere Catholic faith. Seriously. I mean, she said, quote, "The dogma lives loudly within you." And Hollywood elites have been attacking Judge Barrett and her faith and her convictions ever since. Well, I got news for the Democrats and their friends in Hollywood. That dogma lives loudly in me. That dogma lives loudly in you. And the right to live and work and worship according to the dictates of our faith lives loudly in the Constitution of the United States of America. But you know, as Vice President, I'm President of the Senate. So when we're done, I'm going to head back to Washington, D.C. just in case they need my vote. But even if they don't, I'll make a prediction. Before the day is over, Judge Amy Coney Barrett is going to be Justice Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, having a president that would appoint conservatives to our courts. Before the day is out, 3 conservatives to the Supreme Court of the United States has made all the difference. But so has it made a difference to have a Republican majority in the United States Senate. It's one more reason why we need Minnesota to send Jason Lewis to a larger Republican majority in the United States Senate. I mean, it really is about protecting what we cherish most. Our life, our liberties, our pursuit of happiness. All those things that our founding documents put at the very heart of America. Y'all deserve to know, here across the Iron Range, when Joe Biden was vice president, we actually saw a steady assault on the religious freedom of Americans of every faith. I mean, under the last administration, they actually hauled a group of nuns who had taken a vow of poverty to live a life serving the poor. They hauled a little group of nuns into federal court to force them to compromise their faith to live under the mandates of Obamacare. President Trump, I think President Trump has been the greatest champion of people of faith ever to sit in the Oval Office. From early in this administration, we restored the conscience rights of doctors, nurses, religious charities, and teachers. And President Donald Trump ended the assault on the Little Sisters of the Poor, and the Supreme Court voted 7-2 to make it permanent. Under this president, we will always stand for the religious freedom of every American of every faith. So help us God. And finally, I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. You know, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. And they're calling for record increases in funding for abortion at home and abroad. I mean, Joe Biden for years was one of those Democrats who, even though he said he supported abortion rights, he always voted for what was called the Hyde Amendment that prevents taxpayer dollars from being used to fund abortion. But not long ago, he abandoned that historic position. and now supports taxpayer funding of abortion. President Trump, we reinstated the Mexico City policy to make sure not one penny of American tax dollars goes to promote abortion around the world. We stood strong for the Hyde Amendment to protect taxpayers from seeing their dollars used to promote abortion. And President Donald Trump signed a bill that allows states across America to defund Planned Parenthood. President Donald Trump is the most pro-life president in American history, and we're going to stand for the right to life for 4 more years. So in our first 3 years, we rebuilt our military, revived our economy, stood for law and order, liberties, and life. And none of that would have been possible without the strong and consistent support of Minnesota's Republican delegation to Congress. So I got a favor to ask you. Right after you re-elect President Donald Trump, we need to send Congressman Pete Stauber to a new Republican majority in Congress that retires Nancy Pelosi once and for all. It's amazing. I'm telling you what, we did that in 2010. We retired Nancy Pelosi. And we got to do it again in 2020. It's time. You know, when you look at what we were able to accomplish with a Republican House and a Republican Senate in those first few years, there's only one way you can describe it. In 3 short years, we made America great again. It's true. And then 2020 arrived, and the coronavirus struck from China. But before the first documented case of community spread in the United States, President Trump did what no American president had ever done. He suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. He put the health of America first. Now, Joe Biden at the time said that was xenophobic. He actually said it was hysterical. And he actually wrote a couple days before that closing off travel during a global pandemic from anywhere would, quote, make things worse. Joe Biden got it wrong. President Trump got it right. And I can tell you, as the head of the White House Coronavirus Task Force these last 8 months, President Trump's decision to shut off all travel from China saved untold American lives. It bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. It's true. We reinvented testing, doing more testing now than any country in the world by far. We saw it in the manufacture and the distribution, including working with great companies here in Minnesota, of masks and supplies and PPE and ventilators that have literally saved lives. No American who required a ventilator was ever denied a ventilator. No one who ever required an ICU bed to this moment has ever been denied an ICU bed. And I'll make you a promise. With that same energy and ingenuity, the work of your president, the working at the state level, the work with healthcare providers and doctors and nurses, we're going to continue to work our hearts out until the day comes when we put this coronavirus in the past. We're going to develop the medicines, the therapeutics that are saving lives. And we believe that before the end of this year, under Operation Warp Speed, we're going to have the first coronavirus vaccine and tens of millions of doses to distribute to the American people. But we'll keep protecting the vulnerable. We'll keep saving lives. We'll keep developing those life-saving medicines. And with Joe Biden talking about shutting down our economy again, under President Donald Trump, we are opening up America. You know, in just the last 5 months, with that strong foundation that we poured in those first 3 years, and with the unprecedented support that Congressman Stauber supported for families and for businesses in the Paycheck Protection Program, I'm proud to report after we lost 22 million jobs at the height of this pandemic, we've already seen 11.5 million Americans go back to work, including almost 190,000 people right here in Minnesota. So we've gone through a time of testing, but I expect you came out in the cold today because you know we're coming to a time for choosing. The choice has never been clearer. The stakes have never been higher. I mean, when you look at their agenda of higher taxes, open borders, socialized medicine, the Green New Deal, defunding the police, packing the courts, abortion on demand, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. Now, Joe Biden says that democracy is on the ballot. Well, I think our economic recovery is on the ballot. I think law and order are on the ballot. But I also think there are things much more foundational to our country that are on the ballot as well. You know, in this election, I think it's not going to be so much whether America ends up more liberal or more conservative, more Republican or more Democrat, more red or more blue. I think the choice in this election is whether America remains America. It's whether we're going to chart a course, build on the ideals and principles of freedom and all the liberties and traditions of faith and family that have defined our way of life in this great nation for centuries. Or whether we're going to allow Joe Biden and the radical left steer our nation on a path toward more government, less freedom, socialism, and American decline. So let me say from my heart, for our freedom, for all the ideals that have always made America great, we need to decide right here and right now that Joe Biden will never be president of the United States. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. It really is great to be with all of you. And I have to tell you, as a hearty Midwesterner, this just feels like home today. Thank you. This is great. Give yourselves another gloved round of applause for coming out. I just love the sound of that, I'm telling you. It just shows. I don't know if you saw the president on 60 Minutes last night a little bit. Didn't he do great? But he was asked how he would describe his supporters. And he and I were talking later, and I just told him his answer just touched my heart. President Trump last night said, "They are people that love our country." And I see love for America and support for this president all across this cold tarmac. So thank you very much. You know, I didn't know the president that well when he called me up and asked me to join the ticket 4 years ago. We'd met a couple of times. I'd seen him on TV. But I can tell you, some people think we're a little bit different. But actually, we've become very close friends. And I've served at his side every single day. We spent hours together on the days that we're both at the White House. And when we're traveling as we are today, he in Pennsylvania, me here in Minnesota, we talk early and talk late, and usually talk early and late. And I can tell you, President Donald Trump is a real deal. He says what he means and means what he says. And I can attest firsthand that against unrelenting opposition and resistance by the Democratic Party in Washington, against unrelenting attacks by their allies in the national press. There's never been a day gone by that President Trump hasn't gotten up, turned his face like flint against the wind, and fought to keep the promises that he made to the people of this country. Now it's our turn to fight for him. So I need you to bring it. Bring all this enthusiasm. Bring the heat. And go talk to your neighbors and friends. Tell them what 4 more years is going to mean. See, I was out at the airport, ran into Mike. And he said to tell you that 4 more years means more jobs in the Iron Range and all over Minnesota. 4 more years means more judges who will defend our liberties. 4 more years means more support for our police and more support for our troops. And you tell them I said, it's going to take at least 4 more years to drain that swamp. So I need you to do a few things as you leave here today, okay? If you're taking notes. First and foremost, election's 8 days away. Early voting's already started here in Minnesota. So if you haven't done it already, I need you to vote, Minnesota. Vote to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. Job one. I mean, the president cast his vote on Saturday down in Florida. Karen and I just voted last week down in the Hoosier State. And you need to go get it done too. I checked on the way here if you don't know where. You can go down to City Hall, 401 East 21st Street. They're open 8 to 4. And remember this. Friends don't let friends vote alone. Bring a neighbor, bring a coworker, and vote to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. We got 8 days to go, people. Well, you might have time to get there yet today. So get it done. So after you vote with a friend, I want you to go tell somebody. Tell them why you came out to this rally today. I mean, tell them about the passion that you feel for all that we've been able to do to strengthen this country, to stand up for the people of the Iron Range and for your way of life. Just go out and tell all your neighbors and friends what we can do. You know, I'll always believe the greatest form of media in this country is not your TV networks, it's not your big newspapers, it's not even your social media. I think it's word of mouth. I think, you know, we came so close in Minnesota, right? Last time around because people were talking to each other. I mean, we made history in this country in 2016 because the American people, in a very real sense, knew we could be strong again, knew we could be prosperous again. They saw both the vision and the leadership qualities in Donald Trump to bring America back, and they told their neighbors and friends, and you got to go do it again. You got to deliver this time again, just like you did. And as you go forward, I'd encourage you to have faith as you're speaking to your neighbors and friends. Have faith in the American people. You know, I'll always believe that a careful study of history shows that every time the American people were given a clear choice between a future of more freedom and less freedom, they choose more freedom every single time. So have faith in the American people, in the boundless capacity of the American people to overcome any challenge, and to choose the path built on our ideals. You know, Joe Biden says we're headed toward dark days. But President Trump and I know the best days for America are yet to come. And finally, As you have faith in our country and in our ideals, I'd encourage you to have that other kind of faith as well. Just have faith that when we stand for freedom, we defend it, uphold it. We make His work on this earth our very own. The Bible says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. That means freedom always wins. In this one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So have faith. Have faith, Minnesota. And I just know if all of us do all that we need to do over the next 8 days, you vote with a friend, tell somebody, and have faith in the American people and in Him who has ever guided the destiny of this great nation. I know we're going to have a great victory all across Minnesota and all across America. And with your support and your efforts and your prayers, I know we're going to make Minnesota and America stronger than ever before. We're going to make Minnesota and America and the Iron Range more prosperous than ever before. And we're going to make Minnesota and America more united than ever before. And with Congressman Jason Lewis in the United States Senate, with Congressman Pete Stauber in a new Republican majority in the United States House, with President Donald Trump back in the White House, and with God's help, we will make America great again. Thank you all for coming out today. God bless you. God bless America. Now let's go get it done, Minnesota.